I call this meeting to order. Those at HQ, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do we have any changes to the agenda? All right. Seeing none, the chair would like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Commissioner Teoflack. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Farnahoff. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, thank you very much. On to the consent agenda. We have claim vouchers 13383 to 13453 totaling $698,846.37. Payroll summary and authorization for January 2023. Payroll summary and authorization for February 2023.
Move to approve.
So moved by Vice Chair Rowland. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Teoflack. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Approval of meeting minutes from February 14th, 2023 special meeting, February 21, 2023 regular meeting, and March 14th special meeting. Are there any adjustments to those minutes? All right, not seeing any. Chair would like to entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes as they stand. Moved by Commissioner Teoflack, seconded by Commissioner Farnahoff. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor say nay. Perfect. Motion carries. We could be off to a quick meeting. All right, so public comment. I see we have one person online and nobody in the gallery. Is one person online wish to say anything? If so, please raise your hand. All right. We do not. Off to the fire chief report with Chief Eastman.
Good evening. As you know, Chief Hovis and Chief Maxwell and Leslie Hines are down doing the public meeting down in the city of Briar with regards to annexation, doing the educational side and the question and answers. So that's where he is tonight, and I anticipate that to go very well. I haven't emailed you, but I will. What Chief normally does email, although I did for the folks that are here in the building, I gave you a copy of what our current responses have been, and where we are with COVID. Right now we have 0 staff out with COVID, and last month we had a total of 2. Progress. Just a couple of things from that Chief wanted me to highlight for you guys is I don't know if any of you in the room know retired Snohomish County Fire Marshal Bruce Pulver, but he passed away in February. And this past Saturday, they had his memorial service, and our honor guard was there in support of that, and we had an engine that was in attendance also. So for those that don't know, Bruce was a 28-year employee with the fire marshal's office here in Snohomish County, and some of us worked with him quite a bit. He'd been retired, I want to say 22 years, maybe it's only 18, but he'd been retired a while. So we participated in that on Saturday. We had a fire on the 22nd of March. I'm sure you probably heard about it in the news. It was in the city of Mill Creek. It started in the garage, 2-story building. The crews did an exceptional knockout within 10 minutes upon arrival. And it ended up being a fatality fire. There was a fatality in the garage, and that fire is actually still under investigation, and I don't know any more information on it than that. And as things become more available, we'll brief you as appropriate at a time in the future. And for you that have, one of our, I mean, for you that know who Chief Newhoff is, Daryl Newhoff, he actually did retire. And myself, Chief Hovis, Chair Daniels, went to his retirement on Thursday. And I got to know Daryl quite a bit for the last 4 years, mostly as a result of the pandemic. He's one of the unsung heroes with the response, not just for what fire and EMS did, but what we did in the county. And he would hate me for telling you this, but he's one of the people on the back that if it wasn't for him, our success would not have happened. I get a lot of credit because I was the face. Daryl is one of those guys that did a lot of work. Daryl was, I think, 4 months shy of 40 years in the fire service here in Snohomish County. He started at District 20. As a result of the merger, became part of Marysville. Was a deputy chief there for a long time. When Chief McFalls left and retired, Daryl was the interim fire chief, and then the current fire chief came on board here about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and he's actually retired. So for you that know Daryl, we were there, and he's going to go enjoy whatever he's going to do after the fire service. Just 2 quick updates. Value Village. We did get the additional $70,000 in funding from Ecology. Those dollars have to be spent by the end of this fiscal year, so June 30th, which means the report for that phase has to be back. I can tell you that the work on site has been completed. So the additional boreholes that were drilled have been done, and I don't have a preliminary back yet. But the goal is to get that report back. And at that point in time, I anticipate we'll have enough information to then work with Rich and Holly in his office to determine what our next steps are and how that impacts what the future we do with that property is. So more to come on that. And then, as you know, we've closed on the new Station 22 property, and we're working to at least start to get that building removed. And I know CFO Bothwell's group is in the process of doing that. Obviously, Shane's got processes he's got to do to determine, who we can do and the costs and some of those processes. I don't have that information back yet. He's working on it. I do anticipate, though, in the work session in May, we talked about bringing the capital facilities plan back and have a conversation, I think in general about global, and then staff will bring something very specific to Station 22, hopefully to give you guys a brief on what's going on, and then potentially action that we'll need to take up so we can start moving on, removing the existing infrastructure that's on the new Station 22 property, and hopefully quickly thereafter moving to start the process to relocate 22. And we'll have more information for you about that at the work session in May. So with that concludes the chief's report. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to take them.
Thank you, Chief Eastman. Just wanted to add that for Daryl, 39 days shy of 40 years. So anybody have any questions, comments on the chief's report?
Yeah, I have.
Go ahead. Your mic's off.
Yeah, well, I assume that he's resigning from the Snow 911 too.
I am sure he has. I'm sure he has, much to some of the people there wanting his insight and what he brought to that 911 board. I think there's some people that would have liked him to stay.
Well,
Yes,
yeah, it started with,
he's resigning.
well, the merger, when we merger, he was really a person that really get it done, or convincing, and then also the entertainment part of it. That's it. I tell you, Snow 911 meeting is not as fun now if he's gone. He's been known to read out all the proposal, and any type of thing. Fortunately, I didn't realize it was, maybe I wasn't paying attention. I should have gone to the meeting, but if you ever talk to him, just please send my own regards. and,
I will. Well, he's one of those, and we often say we're all replaceable. And I said this, I actually went up and spoke and we are all replaceable.
Right,
In what we do. But I will tell you, Daryl is one of those individuals that I'm not so sure we're going to replace. He had the ability to ask the
Yeah.
hard question and at the same time, listen.
right,
He was reasonable. He kept a group on task
yes,
and he did it in a way that didn't make people mad. And he's unique in that way.
right,
And I'm, we've been knowing Daryl's going to retire over about 3 years now. And there's a lot of us who aren't sure. And I truly
Yeah.
believe this. I'm not so sure Daryl's going to be replaced. People can do some of the work he did,
different, he's
but-
unique.
but what he brought to the table right now, I don't know of anybody who's going to fill those shoes. And that's what made him special. And everything you said, it was talked about at that meeting. And so, yeah, I'll make sure he knows it. I'll keep in touch.
Yeah,
with
he
Daryl.
support me in a couple of situations. I always
Yep.
like people to support me with
Yep,
that.
I'll pass that on to him.
Pass it on to him. The second question, I'm glad you talk about the capital facility plan. I think I mentioned many times, I'm really want to know, first of all, how, remember there's in the report, it mentioned some backfill stations and stuff like that. I'm gonna talk about it properly and talk about it. So when we come up to the really scenario, we might need to planning some of the backfill station right now. And then also, when is the building is gonna close? When are we gonna have to pay the whole thing
For which
for
building?
the village, for the,
Well, so I don't know yet, right? So we need to get the information back from
Right.
the recent work that's being done by the consultants.
right,
And that will help inform us
right,
about what happens next. We know they've had a release.
right,
We know it's gonna have to be cleaned up.
right,
And what we're doing is there's to get more detail of the release.
right,
And then part of this next phase is to determine cost for cleanup. What does that mean? And then we'll bring that back. And we'll have a conversation about what does that mean, but I think there's some, it weighs into if we move forward with purchasing the property, what does that mean? And we need the rest of this information to inform us as we move forward. And I'm happy to say that Holly in Richard's office, this is what she does, and she's very familiar with what we're talking about with Value Village property. And she's been kept up to speed on what we've done so far. And so when we get the rest of the information, we'll meet with her from a staff's perspective. And then I would assume there'll be a point in time where we have an executive session to come talk to you guys about the Value Village property and what does that mean and where it goes and
so what's the total closing, when you say closing, mean how much money we have?
I don't know yet.
Roughly
right.
rounding,
I don't know. To be honest with you, Commissioner Chan, I don't have that answer yet because I think one, there's some rules associated with that property because the hospital district owns the property that they have to get, the appraisals have to be within 12 months. They're going to have to go get it reappraised. And they can't let the property go for less than 10% of the appraised value. So there's some statute rules
right,
that dictate the price. Now, it's more complex because of the fact that it's contaminated. They've had a release. The release is reportable to ecology. And so that makes it, there's a little bit more nuance to it. And it's not as straightforward
right,
as the reality is, if we weren't dealing with the ecology issues, I would say we're paying 90% of what appraised value is from 3 independent appraisers. And that then sets the value because that's what statute says. In this case, there's some other nuances that I don't have an answer for you yet because I just don't know what the results of this are. And then figuring out with Rich and his team, what are our options to move forward? Or maybe the option is we don't move forward. Although I'm not saying everything so far is moving forward is still on the table. It's just what's the process at the very end? So
Well,
I don't have an answer for you,
Yeah.
Commissioner Chan, and
Yeah.
that's my long-winded way of saying, again, I don't know.
no, I think as soon as you got it, I think several people can look at that, our cash flow wise, how can we, I don't think we are right away ready for the bond yet and everything else. So we probably have to internally look at the cash flow.
Yeah, I think initially when we first went out and got permission to go look at property, because we're looking at Alderwood Mall Parkway too, just so everybody remembers. Is that we had the current dollars that were sitting in the building reserve
Right.
to be able to use for that purpose.
Right.
And I think according to CFO Balpo, myself, we're still on that,
Okay.
still in that mindset that if we do move forward with purchasing those properties, that the funding mechanism as the board, I mean, obviously we can always change course,
Right.
would be that we would use it from the current dollars that are sitting in the building reserve fund.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Chief Eastman, for that. On to our legal report with our attorney, Matt Paxton.
Good evening, commissioners. Matt Paxton here. Richard Davis is out of the office, asked me to attend. No legal update, but I will tell you just briefly what we've been doing in the last 30 days or so for the district or for the Regional Fire Authority. We've been advising on the annexation of Mount Lake Terrace and the city of Briar, responding to public record questions from your public records officer, responding to personal service contracts, record retention issues, employee policies and job descriptions, as well as some compliance for public bidding requirements. That, along with monitoring potential litigation, has been what we've done for the district over the last 30 days or so. Any questions?
Thank you, Matt. Questions? Got off light tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to legal or union report with Justin Pickens, our VP.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. I think I know most of you, but if you don't know me, my name's Justin Pickens. I'm newly elected vice president this year in our local. March was fairly busy for us. The 1st of March, we had several of our members participate in the Nick of Time event over at Jackson High School in Mill Creek. It was a good, successful event there. March 12th, we had the Scott Firefighter Stair Climb in Seattle, and I think we had 22 members that participated in that event to support leukemia research. As Chief Eastman mentioned, our honor guard's been fairly busy. They have been attending funerals. There's been, a few line of duty deaths within the state recently, and so they've been busy with attending those events. We've had a couple Saturdays now and have 3 or 4 more Saturdays on the book of sign waving for the Mount Lake Terrace and Briar RFA vote, and the e-board it has a fairly busy season right now with some of our education seminars that are going on. We have the IFF 7th District Ed Seminar coming up here in a couple weeks. There were 3 of us, myself and President Moore and Political Director Cash went back to Washington, D.C. the 6th through the 8th of March for the legislative conference. That was a good experience, good learning experience. Got to go to the Capitol and actually got to attend the President Biden attended and spoke at our event. So that was pretty cool. Other than that, we have a couple members that are attending executive leadership series. One of those is President Moore, which is why he's not here tonight, as well as Communications Director Rivas. That's a year-long educational program in labor education. So aside from that, one more event that has kind of went by the wayside over the last couple of years with COVID was Fill the Boot, where we stand out on the corners with the boots collecting money for Muscular Dystrophy Association. So we're in the process right now of nailing down a few dates to kind of resurrect that program now that we're through the COVID times. So that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, VP Pickens. Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, I just want to compliment you on the sign waving. It was cold. And you guys have a big show up and I'm glad I'm the one who bought gloves and hat. It showed up much better than the Mill Creek thing.
Yeah.
So I encouraging other I know Commissioner Roland was waving signs at the Mill Creek thing. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate you guys. I think I saw the reactions from a lot of public waving sign
Yeah.
and one guy stopped by, what is Proposition 1? I think there's a lot of people kind of in that situation. I think you guys explained it real well. So I
Sure.
really appreciate that as a
Yeah.
private citizen.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, we recognize the importance of it and absolutely support it. So we're happy to help in any way we can. So.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, VP Pickens. On to unfinished business, Independence Day fireworks planning 2023 with Assistant Chief Eastman.
Good evening again. The agenda bill starts on page 55 of your packet. I also want to let you know Shawnery, Guzman's on and Carl Fitter, Deputy Chief Fitter is on, and we'll fill in the blanks. So Shawnery and Leslie drafted two versions of a letter. And so the board knows we had a meeting with Intergovernmental last week. And we brought these two letters forward just to get a first read through with them. And what we did is we brought two letters forward. One is a little bit softer, the other one's a little bit harder for the board to consider or discuss and amend as we go. Commissioner Kenny, I got your email, I think it was yesterday. My days are coming together. And actually our group felt that was what he wanted. What he suggested was including with the ban of sale is to ban the possession of also. My group kind of kicked themselves and wish we'd have thought about that and had it in at the beginning. So we like that addition and staff would recommend that we add not just the ban of sale, but add language that says the ban of possession also. That made sense to us. If you're going to ban the sale, then you shouldn't be walking around with them in your person either. And we thought that was actually a good addition. So thank you, Commissioner Kenny, for that. And then Mr. Todd also sent an email that showed support and highlighted some things, and we can talk about them as we go through the letter here. So depending on how the board wants to look at that, would you like the letter to go up and share it, and then we can talk about the first version of the letter first, and then really the difference is the last paragraph in the second, and we can look at those. And I think Shawnery was going to help make sure we take notes so we can make the edits that are appropriate at the request of the board. So is that fair? Come here, Chair Daniels.
Yes.
So we can show version 1 if you would, please, Brian. And I think I'll just give everybody a couple minutes to read it, and then we can have a quick discussion. And if when we do that, if we can take the unscreen share so we can see faces, that'd be great. Thanks.
Commissioner Chan, there's a hard copy in your packet if you want to read it too.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at the screen. It's up to you.
Chair, do you think we want to show the second letter and read the differences between the two and
I
then
was
have
just gonna
discussion?
put those up, but then use the highlight feature within Word to show the delta.
If you want to do that, that's fine. So everybody's finishing up. So right now, staff was moving towards hopefully getting consensus from the board on a version of the letter. Realizing that one's for the county council as a whole. And then we've identified the 3 council positions that are part of the RFA and send a letter to them also, with the goal, I think at the end of the day, to work within the county's process to see if we can't get a resolve and actually get the ban of sale. And that doesn't mean we don't continue to go in front and speak publicly like we have in the past. But to give us more than one opportunity once a year to work on the backside and see if we can't get some movement from a different perspective and work within the confines of how their committee system works, to see if we can ultimately be successful and ban the sale and possession, the following year after we get the board or the county to adopt it. And I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, the expectation is, unless the county has a huge change of heart, I think we start the conversation with them on the backside. We still go do what we do in front. I don't see the council all of a sudden, when we go before them with a letter like we have in the past, for them to say, oh yeah, we're going to do that. And so I see us working, we'll start the conversation before the 4th. The real work's going to begin after the 4th, and hopefully sometime, around after the first of the year, we get the council to pass something for it to take effect in 25. I don't know if we're going to be able to get anything happening that faster than that. Based on what I know, and I'm not one of the people who have sat in front of council, I've been one that's had the conversations with them. So from a staff's perspective, that's from a expectation setting perspective, that's what we're thinking, is if we can get traction talking to individual council people and get that to drive through the county council's process, hopefully we'll be successful and have the ban start in 2025. I don't know if there's a way we can make it happen sooner than that, unless the county council really surprises us, and I don't expect that. And I know several of you have actually been engaged in this in a far different way than me. And is that an unrealistic expectation, or is that a realistic expectation for us to have?
I think 2025 is realistic, but we can always shoot for something sooner.
Yeah, I agree. So, so with that, you've got the 2 different letters, version 1 and version 2. And Chair, I don't know how you want to have this discussion go, but staff's ready to take input or suggestions or be able to answer maybe why staff drafted it a certain way.
I think we could consider deciding, do you want to go with the first version or the second version, and then kind of go from there. Commissioner
Can you
Teal,
speak real
you have your
louder?
hand up. I was suggesting that we decide first amongst the 7 of us if we want to go with version A or version B. Version B being the one with the highlights, and then we could continue the conversation from there. But first, we have to pick a path, pick a horse. So, Commissioner Teal.
Yeah, I think version 2 or version B is the more, I guess, convincing and more grammatically correct version. So number 2 is the one that I would go for.
Number 2 being the one with the highlights.
Correct.
Okay. No, I just want to make sure.
I do like the last.
Go. Vice Chair Rowland.
I do like the last sentence. I do like the last sentence there, and when I was looking at it, I was thinking that sentence actually is a great way to start, or I'm sorry, not sentence, but paragraph of the first document there on the left. That's a great way to start off the letter, kind of with the compliment first and then the exhortation second. The paragraph that starts, we are encouraged by the positive outcomes we've seen since the implementation of the ban. I think that's just a great way to start off either one of them. Instead of burying that compliment in the bottom after we've already kind of told them what they did wrong.
soften the startup. I agree with you. Anyone else?
One other comment is just in general, I find it beneficial to avoid using the personal pronoun or using, what is it, second person, saying you a lot, keeping it a little bit more vague. Or a little less personal, the council, that way it doesn't come off as, because it's kind of, it's a little bit across the board. There's just certain paragraphs where we start, throwing in you this, you that. So just two minor things. And it's in both. There's less in the first one than there is in the second one.
Thank you. Any other input?
I just like the second one.
I really like your suggestion about possession. I think that adds an extra oomph to it.
I think we want possession because if you only ban sales and use, then everybody can walk around with their fireworks everywhere and there's nothing enforcement can do about it. Where you're actually going to make the enforcement happen is either at the sale or at the possession. Actually catching people using them in the dark is hard.
Spot on in your analysis there.
I've prosecuted a few of those cases before.
I do not question that statement. Vice Chair Rowland.
Is possession banned in King County?
In Seattle.
Okay.
It's a crime. Here in what we're talking about here is a class 1 civil infraction in Snohomish County,
What is it in King County?
a crime. It's a gross
Misdemeanor.
misdemeanor.
But just curiosity, what are the penalties there?
A year in jail and a $5,000 fine.
Ooh, I like that.
I have to comment.
Commissioner Fernhoff.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what we're asking for from the county council is to basically stop sale likely from stands that are on private property and that are owned by families and businesses, for a long time. And this is their source of income. I know we have things like gun buyback programs. Is there any sort of thought to aid the council in suggestions on how we keep those private property owners from taking on the stands and selling them in the first place? Is there an incentive that we can creatively discuss that says, hey, by the way, if you don't put that fireworks stand here, like a gun buyback program, maybe we give them some sort of gift card or something.
So my perspective on that is that's part of why we want to have a conversation with the county council through their process, because through that process, you can have those kind of conversations, right? We can talk about, one of the things that I know Chief Federer brought up is the fact that we're taking away the ability for the public to launch their own fireworks. And the conversation was, well, then we want to drive people to public fireworks. Here's the problem. There's not that many public fireworks anymore. And Edmonds isn't doing it. Montlake Terrace may or not. I don't believe Montlake Terrace is doing it. You're looking at Everett and Arlington. And so for 800,000 people in Snohomish County, those are two. I mean, you're not putting 800,000 people in Arlington because they'd never get there and they'd never get out. And Everett's the same thing. And so some of the things when you talk about the creative, I think I wouldn't put it in a letter like this. I think that's a conversation that we can talk about internally about how we want to participate in that. And then 2, bring some of those concepts up in their committee form, if we're lucky enough to get in there, and talk about those things. We understand there's an impact to people who, make dollars on this, and this is their annual fundraiser. How do we minimize that impact? We realize that we need to provide some place for people to go see fireworks. How do we do that? What do we do? Is there something we can do? What can the fire authority do to help with that, to keep people from lighting off fireworks personally? And how does that work? I think that's part of the conversation. If we're lucky enough to get in the door on the backside to talk with council members in their committees and explore what those options could be in an environment rather than in a letter that goes, because I think it's one dimensional and there's so many other different variables at play in that. I think we do need to do it. I just don't think the letter's the setting to do it, at least from my perspective. That's the art of the conversation if we're lucky enough to have it.
No, I totally agree. I don't think the letter's the place, but I think if I were on the council and I received this, my first questions to you are, what are my alternatives? And if we haven't had a dialogue on that as to public display, compensation for not having the stands. You know, we can't put a police officer at every stand, right? You know, and say, no, you can't sell. So I think I would be looking for those creative ideas just in the same breath as I received this letter. I would be turning to you and asking the question. So what's my alternatives? What do I do?
Yes,
Just putting myself on their council
the scope is within the RFA, not the entire county.
still.
No, I just wanted to make sure that,
Well, we know that, you know, folks will go to our neighbors to the north.
that's right, and to the east.
And to the east, and then we'll buy something, you know, akin to TNT. And they bring it home and detonate it. So thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Commissioner Chan, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I definitely, thank you for Commissioner Fernhoff concerned about that. Actually, this has been the discussions. Boy Scout of America, so there's some troops in there, they sell firework for that. And we have discussion, why don't you do some other form of fundraising rather than just fireworks? There's a good of a public, I think this may be time the Chamber of Commerce all get together. Get a major sponsor like Boeing. Like I know in Seattle, Ivers is the one who sponsored the annual, thing. So that has to be part of it. But what can we, I mean, of course, we're public fund, we cannot just give it away or whatever, but we can do that, just showing that we're concerned. But at the end of the day, we'll have to see what is the major issues about injury and everything else. That's, to me, take precedent to any other thing else. So after we pick which letter, then I talk about my experience, what should we do with the council? I'll wait until that come up.
All
And
right.
by the way, I agree with Commissioner Michael in here that they're using you as really forceful. You might be say the council or something like that. All right.
So the feedback that we have at the moment is to use the second one and include language about possession and to remove references for the word you or the second person. And then also to soften the startup with the last paragraph of the first one with we are encouraged by the positive outcomes and make that the first paragraph of the second letter. And then go into we are once again. Is there any other feedback we can give staff? Mr. Todd?
I'm a big proponent of the first sentence in any memo is the executive summary. So I would suggest that this final paragraph be moved to number 2, but I think you got to start off with the sentence that says what we're asking for. And then say we're encouraged by,
Okay.
and then go on. But I don't think you want to lose that first sentences. What is it before they go, I don't know what this is about. It's a thank you letter. Goes right in the round file. Thanks.
Thank you for that feedback. Anyone else? Okay,
So Chair Danos, I just want to make sure Shauna Ree has that and doesn't have any questions before we move on. You good? Okay, thanks.
all right, then we will cover this again in a week. Is that the idea?
Oh, yeah. Well,
So that's if we can, or if we make the changes that we are talking about making. In other words, we'll move that paragraph, the last paragraph from the first letter to the second paragraph of this letter. And unless there's any other changes, and we'll add possession and Leslie and Shauna Ree, I think already have a version with that in it because they liked it when I sent them Commissioner Kenny's email. If you want to bring it back for the next meeting, we can. Or if the board's okay with making those edits and then allowing it to be signed and move forward. We'll do whatever the board would like us to do in that regard.
Thank you. Commissioner Chan, you have your hand up?
yeah, after that decided, I think the following a procedure. I think we still have a date. Nothing more forceful, have a group of supporter. Basically go, I don't know, in May or something and go up there and thank you. They understand that we sent a letter and supporting this letter. I know Is Leslie, Leslie's not here. Sean Ray probably know the group of people that we work with. And set up a day in June or May, probably May is better, to say, hey, we support this letter. That is always work.
Yeah, and to add to that, we're still working to get letters from the cities. I mean, that work's still working in the background.
right.
So when that time comes to go before council, we'll have the rest of that to come forward with it.
Right,
And like I said, Leslie and Shawnee are well-versed working with,
yeah.
I mean, they've been part of this from the beginning, so.
Nothing see better. The whole room is full, and thank you them for considering.
Yeah,
Not-
and I think the
not
goal.
demanding that, but thank you
Yeah,
them for
and I
considering.
think some of the things we were talking about from a staff's perspective is if we do it before the Labor Day weekend,
Right,
that gives, if we get any traction at all,
yeah,
it gives the council some time prior to the 4th of July to have any discussion further if they want, rather than
Yeah.
go, and I don't know if I remember correctly, we've been going in June.
right,
Which I think from our perspective is a little bit late. We're trying to get ahead
Yeah.
of it early
yes,
and not do it so close to the date. But once again,
Yeah.
you know, you guys are part of the conversation to talk to the council. So we'll make sure we coordinate that with you.
all right.
Mr. Todd and then Vice Chair Rowland.
So I guess I'm confused again. I'm looking for the overall marketing plan, the timing of this, again, so the cities can support you at the right time. I think you don't want the letter to go and then have letters from cities straggle in later. So I'm trying to understand the whole arc of this campaign. So what is there a target date for this letter? And then can we figure out how to have cities be one day, 1 week, one council cycle after that or something? I'm thinking about the fact that if you want a letter from the city of Mill Creek, it could take a couple weeks to get it.
So I know Shawnee and Leslie have been talking about that. Shawnee, are you in a spot to shed some light on this?
So it'll depend on how fast the board signs the letter so that we can kind of put it into place. The first goal is just to get the letter to Mead, Strom, and Dunn first in the back end, and then come in with the letter to the full board with all the city supported letters along with that main letter. And so those are the two main things that we're working on. And then from there, we could schedule a date to go in front of the board. We have a pretty large distribution list, email distribution list from all the people the last 2 years that have complained and wanted us to keep them apprised of what we're doing. And a lot of them want to be part of this show to the board. So that'll take a little bit to get mobilized, but as soon as we can get that first letter with the changes that we talked about tonight done and signed and get those to the 3 council persons, then we can start working on grabbing the city letters and then get that in motion. So I think 3 weeks to the full council, it would be enough time probably to get the city's letters in place.
I was gonna say start sooner rather than later, because if you start on April 12th, you won't get a letter till April 25th at the very earliest, for instance, for Mill Creek. I think Briar's the same way. Montclair is probably the same way.
I think we can put the letter ask in motion tomorrow, once we get the letter done with the changes that we talked about. And if the board is okay with having trust that we'll make the changes that you all provided today, and we send that to you for final signature versus having to wait to come back till next Tuesday and go through kind of another pass through, that will accelerate our timeline, which I think we really need to do.
So I've asked Brian to share the second letter with the paragraph as suggested by Vice Chair Rowland. And then with Mr. Todd saying that, hey, we need to keep that first one, but then soften the startup with "we are encouraged." And so that's the only alteration to this at this moment in time. I trust that staff will go through and take this as a template, add the jargon about possession, and make sure that maintain a third person perspective and remove second person perspectives. With that being said, Vice Chair Rowland.
I do want to say that I personally am uncomfortable with suggesting the banning or the possession if that leads to the criminalization to the same extremes that King County has gone, I think we're already, well, two things is one, we're asking for something that they haven't given us yet, and then asking for even more. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not comfortable with that stiff of penalties or even suggesting that they go that route. So I would say that I'm comfortable with putting possession in there.
We're not asking to make it criminal. It's still civil at this time.
Well, the possession part of it, I just want to make sure that we're not indicating that they should go the exact same route as King County. That I just wanted to go on
No,
record for that.
I don't believe we'd reference that. I think we would say that the sale, ban the sale and ban possession. And Commissioner Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, in Snohomish County, if we did that, it would be, if they're caught in possession, it's still civil. In our county, Seattle made it a misdemeanor, correct?
Right. In Seattle, it is. In King County, I don't think it is.
Oh, okay.
And in this particular zone, because this is, the legislation for this is modeled after the no shooting zones that have been allowed in Snohomish County for a long time. And so this would, the penalty for violating this type of a zone is a class 1 infraction. So it won't be criminalized. I mean, I guess it would be possible for the county to, just in the unincorporated area, create a possession fireworks as a crime, but nobody's been talking about that.
Okay.
So it's pretty unlikely.
I just, given the questions I asked you and the direction this was going, I didn't want that to be seen as us asking for it. So, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
I also know that the Snohomish County Prosecutor's Office has a caseload of about 7,000. So this is not gonna bubble very far up that list. So is it okay? Is the board, somebody want to make a motion that take this as a baseline, and then staff will update it to use the term jargon and remove the second person references and focus on third person, that they go ahead and produce a letter and then allow me to sign it as chair and send on to the county council?
Sounds good.
Somebody want to make the motion?
So moved to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenny. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Farnahoff. Any further discussion? None appearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries.
Chair Janos, I just want to, if we can stop screen sharing. And Shawnery, I just want to give you one last to make sure you have everything. Update the letter. Thank you, Chair.
No problem. Thank you, staff. On to National Public Safety Telecommunications Week resolution with Deputy Chief Chalfant and Snow 911 Supervisor Arnold. And I just want to say thank you, Marie, for sticking around.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to begin first by introducing and welcoming Snow 911 Dispatch Supervisor Marie Arnold. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, thank you for having me here tonight.
Thank you. As you may recall, over the last couple of years, we've supported this National Telecommunicators Week through a resolution of the board, and recognizing the strong work and collaborative work that we do with our SNOCOM Dispatch Center daily. They take a good stab at this each year and have a lot of fun up at the dispatch center with their staff and celebrating them. This year's motto is, "Aren't you ponderful?" Is that correct, Marie?
Oh, no.
I left in front of me, so there is a theme to it. They'll do some events and drawings and give away swag and some prizes and things for their staff. And, you know, like I said, overall, just appreciate them for the hard work that they do daily in support of the work that we do daily. One additional item this year, recently today, I received an email from Andy Burton, one of the directors up there at SNOCOM, in which they've established a kudo board or a message blog type board that I'd be happy to forward to the board if you're interested, but it allows you to just hit the link and you can send a message that the dispatchers then would be able to all access beginning on, I believe, Monday or Sunday this next week, and read those messages from both our staff and the board. So that went out to our whole staff and our local today, so everybody has an opportunity to post on that. So again, if you're interested, I'm happy to forward that to you. Beyond that, I would just introduce Marie again, and if there's any questions or discussion for this resolution, happy to entertain them.
Thank you, Chief Chalfant. Is there any questions? Commissioners?
You were right with the theme. The theme is, we think you're punderful, so it's a kind of whimsical theme this year that's based on some different puns, and each day has like a theme. So like Thursdays is it's Gouda Brie a good day, like Gouda and Brie, right? So they're kind of food themes, and they're trying to be fun and just have a good time up here in the dispatch center. So it's gonna be a good year.
Thank you. So we have a resolution. Vice Chair Rowland.
I move that we pass the resolution.
I will second that.
That would be resolution 04042023-10. It has been moved and seconded. Move up by Chair Rowland and seconded by Commissioner Chan. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Chan?
Yeah, as an ex board member of 911, I really appreciate what you guys do. You're critical, and I also a customer of yours a couple of times. And I really appreciate the efficiency and everything else. I think this resolution is great.
Thank you, Commissioner Chan. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. On to 2022 asset inventory results and resolution for action with CFO Bothwell.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm going to share the presentation here.
New slide design. You had a cube before.
Let's share things in the way.
If you go to the bottom and push, oh, that works too.
All right, so this is a brief presentation on the 2022 asset inventory. At the end of the presentation, I will be asking you to consider adopting the resolution that is in your packet. So I will start with what is an asset inventory and why do we care? The asset inventory is the annual physical verification of assets. So what we do is we take the asset list and we go out in the field and we locate assets and verify that we still have them. It sounds like a relatively simple process, but we have almost 1,700 assets spread over 16 facilities. And a lot of those assets are actually on apparatus that are constantly on the move. So it's actually pretty complicated. The reason that we do this is for accountability to the safeguarding of the public assets that we're in charge of. There we go. So we do have some history with this topic. Prior inventory results have been reviewed by our auditors, and they've identified some issues with those, specifically around the inventory documentation and some of the follow-up. So whether or not we had verification dates for some assets during the at the conclusion of the inventory, and then the follow through, bringing this information to you all and then communicating it to the state auditor's office after the fact, have been problems for us. So they have issued management letters, which is the second level of reporting for the auditors. If we don't correct these deficiencies, they will escalate it to a finding, which is the most severe. So for the 2022 inventory, it is complete, and we have verified all but 10 assets, which in the context of 1,700 is a very small number. The majority of those 10 appear to be the results of record keeping. So 7 of them appear to be assets that were just not, the paperwork wasn't processed appropriately to get them off the asset records. The best example, there's the individual items are in your packet, but the best example is there's a Stairmaster on there. It's pretty unlikely that that was lost or stolen. What happened with that is that it was called in, somebody called in for service, it was broken. They came in, the service tech came in, ended up needing a new one. So they hauled the old one away, bring in a new one, and we just didn't fill out the paperwork to get that off the asset records. So that's true for 7 of the 10 assets. So we have 3 that are truly lost or stolen. The next steps are to get the board to seek board authorization to dispose of the assets, and that's just the administrative disposal. The assets can't be located at this point. Following that, we'll report to the state auditor's office. And then our final step will be to educate or remind staff of the asset procedures so that those 7 issues that we have currently hopefully don't recur into the future. And that is the very brief presentation. I'm happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you, CFO Bothwell. I was involved in doing inventory at Claire's about 25 years ago at the Alderwood Mall, and I vowed never to work retail for that purpose. So I can appreciate what you said, 1,700 assets, rolling stock. Yes. Vice Chair Rowland.
Just a minor thing, is the results table here going to be provided to them as far as the disposition?
To them, you mean the state
The
auditor's
state
office?
auditor's office.
Yeah, we'll
All right,
tell-
just attention to detail, last 2 items there. Looks like we did a copy paste and they aren't TVs, so
Okay.
the Surface and the iPad. I just want to make sure that if we're gonna hand that over, that it has
I'll take a look at that.
minor thing. So 2 we may have mistakenly sent to surplus auction. Okay, and then the other 5 is just, we didn't get it off the books. Question on kind of our more, I don't want to say if it's, I don't know, for $7,500. Is that the depreciated value for the thermal camera or retail?
It's the historical value. So when we
Historical
put it
value.
on the books, that was the cost.
Do we have a certain process for signing out our more expensive tools and equipment, or is it, I mean, what's the kind of process for handling things like that?
So I'll try, and we've kind of done some reorg, so that kind of falls under my preview now with DC Curtis as the primary for logistics. There is, and we just upgraded to another software or component. We use Operative IQ, and so they do, there's a handful of ways that they verify or do a verification. One is they do check in, check out. So when things are issued, like are issued, right, it's checked out. And then when they're done with it, they check in. If it's something that is in a warehouse and goes out, it's used and then comes back. If we get new devices, they get checked out. If they get assigned to a rig, they get checked out, assigned to the rig. CFO Bothwell was talking about some of that stuff rotates rigs. And so we have, we're working on a better way to track. We just implemented it on, John, was it Monday? So Monday, we actually implemented a process where once they get issued, then they have to actually verify some of those things by putting the asset tag number in, specifically because the stuff in the rigs, the life packs, ticks, like thermal imaging cameras, they move depending on what's happening with patient care. So what happens, the theory being, now that we've changed to the new interface, is when they verify that they have their life pack, their heart monitor, their life pack 15, they verify it with the new asset tag.
Okay.
And then what happens is when everybody does that, if a life pack got rotated during the shift, it then gets reassigned to the unit it's actually on. So yes, and we're continuing to refine this as we go to make it more efficient and better. And I don't know if I answered your question, but yes, there is check in, check out.
Thank you.
Also, the system have a forecastable service line. In other words, we'll flag it and say, hey, you've been up to, 36 months in service.
So my understanding is the system does that. But I don't know if we've implemented that component. Now that we actually have, now that we have a division of logistics or logistics division with a deputy chief now overseeing that, we need to implement more pieces of Operative IQ for that purpose. In other words, for an example being our PPE, our bunker gear is all inventoried in there. We could easily, for budget purposes, is say, all right, how many sets of bunker gear are at their 10-year life in 2024? The number's X, Chris. We're going to need X number of bunker gear because they're expiring in 2024. So we're working to get there. It's just pieces of the software haven't been implemented to get us that way. And hopefully at the end of the day, we'll get it sophisticated enough to where Jennifer, our data analyst, can do a dashboard and do some of those things like you're talking about, where it'll make things easier and more efficient for staff moving forward. We're just not quite there yet, and it's gonna take us some time to get there, because that's a big project for an organization of our size.
Anyone else?
I'm raising my hand there.
Oh, Commissioner Chan.
I guess I never really pay attention to raising hands. Just cut it. I just have to say, we came a long way. When I first started, we don't even have that. And then we start, your predecessor started inventory sheets and scanning and put tags on. It's amazing now you come only 10 asset. Eastman Port, remember that we wrote a whole bunch of stuff. We don't even know where they're gone. It's terrible. But I still think it does not come all the way to what we need. We really truly need a balance sheet, because a single list from year to year, it really does not capture what happened, right? And also, I assume this is not, you don't keep track of how many vehicles we have and all that, right? This is only for attractive assets, what they call, or something mobile, something smaller one, right?
It's for anything that we put an asset tag on. So obviously the radios are now 911, but we used to inventory radios.
Right.
I don't think I don't think we track in this context, track our rigs, but we do morning rig checks and weekly rig checks. So our rigs are checked in some fashion,
Right.
at least weekly, and for the reserve rigs monthly. So for most of our assets that meet policy, both the small and attractive and the ones that meet the dollar threshold, this is what we're talking about here, Commissioner Chan, is
Yeah.
those assets.
I know, actually, it's called, I find it, I Google it, it's what's attractive assets. So by definition, just what they say, attractive assets. I define it as expendable items with a useful life of 1 or more years and or acquisition cost of more than $500, but less than $5,000. These items are not capital assets. Given the attractive nature of the item, departments must keep track of the property due to the various reasons, including that the items are prone to theft and or go missing. So that is, so I at that time make a joke, then I would like to take all the unattractive assets and get it. So anyway, so I would vote no, because I don't think it give us a false security here that everything is there. So eventually I'm pushing for the balance sheets for us. I'll see their balance sheets, big organized balance sheet. So in a sense, this, I vote no is based on that. So.
Vice Chair Rowland.
If I understand this correctly, the resolution that is on, I guess it's not on the floor yet, but that is under consideration. Is it required for us to declare them surplus? Otherwise, them being outstanding is a worse issue when it comes to with the state.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay. So I guess I'm confused as to your opposition to declaring these items surplus to make sure that we're protected.
No, I'm just vote no for the whole notions about this asset should become like a false security is not really.
But that's not the
It's-
motion on the floor.
No,
Or
but I'm
would not
protesting.
be.
I'm just explaining the reason I vote no. It doesn't really matter how what my read, I just want to stay clearly on the explaining why I vote no.
Anyone else?
Steph, go ahead.
So I guess I just want to make sure the board knows that of the just under 1,800 assets, right? Is that the right number? Or is it 1,700? The 1,700 assets that we by policy are required to annually inventory. What we're saying from staff's perspective is we've identified and physically have verified that all but these 10 we have. And these 10 items, 7 of those we believe from the logistics side of it was completing paperwork, and we're working on ways to make that better. And then there's 3 items that just we're not able to find and they're lost. And I guess I want to make sure that of the items, they've been verified, and so you know how we verify, we're now verifying by photograph, right? So there was a lot of work done. I just want to make sure the board is we did verify all 1,700 assets that we need to track by policy. 10 of them we were unable to find, and you have, the reason why for 7 of the 10 were clerical, and 3 of them are just, we don't have them and we've identified them being gone. And I just want to make sure that work was done and completed. And this process is to fulfill the rest of the process for asset inventory, which is for stuff we can't find. We need to tell you we couldn't find it. And then once you guys approve the resolution, then CFO Bothwell and stuff needs to report that to the state auditor to finish that loop, which I think is part of why we got the management letter last year. So I just want to make sure that the board knows the process we went through, and it was a process that took about 3.5 months. So it wasn't a short thing, and we're working on making it more efficient, and we will. So that's all I have.
Mr. Todd?
So I understand fully what the motion is that what you're trying to deal with here. I'm not voting on that. I think there's still some confusion in the room. I understand this to be all assets, both small and attractive, up through the large assets. So on this list of 1,700, there is a ladder truck all the way down to a thermal imaging camera. And so that is all the assets. And that's what we're required to for the state auditor. We got to keep track of all those things, everything that's an asset from small and attractive on up. I heard Commissioner Chan asked for balance sheet, and I'm not sure that terminology is equivalent to what the state talks about in terms of auditor's office. I'm asking for clarity on that, but I think this is all the assets, including the ladder trucks. Right?
Yeah,
No,
that's correct. So we don't tag ladder trucks, but they're included in the asset inventory. So, and it does include small and attractive assets and capital assets. The distinction is really one that's just exists in the financial world. So you'll see it in our policies when you see those come forward. The capitalization threshold is $1,000. Small and attractive is just things that might not meet that threshold, things like iPads, but are frequent targets of theft. And so we track those too. This asset inventory covers all.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right.
It's just one question. I want to understand, what do you want to see from them other than this? You want to see all the stuff that we actually have an inventory, or what's missing? I just want to understand.
yeah, no, actually, probably Commissioner Kennedy probably understand what I'm trying to say. Any big organization, $100 million organization, need to really have a balance sheet. It's financials and balance sheet, income statement, and statement of cash flow, which is standard one, probably. I think we come to the point that we really need a good balance sheet, because this just a single sheet does not really tie to anything at all. Doesn't tie to the cash, doesn't tie to anything. So it is a more complicated. That's why I compliment my staff. We came a long way. When I first started, there's no asset, no tracking. This is good. This is good. But I really want this, but we don't want to have a false assumption, everything else. Example, we have 2 pieces of land. It's not showing up in anywhere, right? We know it, but some of the commission don't even know that we have 2 pieces of raw land that's in there. It's basically a truly a good financial statement, have the balance sheets. Right now, we do not have balance sheets, right? So it's just a cash basis type of thing. It's not a really good internal control in that way.
All right.
Okay.
So
I'm again, I'm emphasizing our staff have done a great job since I started, but I think now I'm pushing forward one more step. Bothell know that. City of Bothell have balance sheet, right? City of Mill Creek, probably balance sheets. School district, you don't have a balance sheet? Okay, you're an exception
Not
there.
in municipal governments, no.
Well, yeah, but cash basis still can't have balance sheet, but this is not the time to have that discussion.
I
But I'm
agree.
just,
That's the point.
just make sure I'm, saying my vote to say that's the reason, nothing reflection of our staff, nothing reflection what we now, but I want to move us to be forward.
So this list of items is about $20,000. And as you mentioned, this is $100 million organization.
I'm
So
sorry.
you mentioned that this is $100 million enterprise organization and
No,
these
no,
list
no,
of 10
no.
items.
Well, I'm saying that we have
dollars.
our budget. Now, the total budget is really high now. So I think if you go to a coffee shop, have balance sheets. Any small business have balance sheets.
Private enterprise, correct?
Yeah, but we are.
Not a private enterprise. We're a municipal
No,
corporation.
hear me out, please. All the 5 districts now in California, they have balance sheets. Balance sheet is a very good, what we call GAAP, general accepted accounting principle. I really do not, I think we should be accountability. I think that's what I'm looking at. Again, this is not the forum time to discuss this. I'm just just on the record, I think we need to go further.
Right. You've been consistent on that. I'm just trying to mentally tie the balance sheet component to this list of 10.
Again, this is not the time to discuss, but please allow me to vote how I vote. And I already.
I'm not saying you can't
explanation.
vote that way. I'm just
What?
trying to understand.
So what?
I'm not saying you cannot vote that way. I am just trying to understand your perspective better and how these two things are
Why don't we
correlated.
take it offline and then I can spend more time explaining to you. All right,
Okay, because in my mind, these are two separate items, so I don't see the correlation. So.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
any
right.
other discussion? All right. Chair would like to entertain a motion to adopt the resolution. Commissioner Teoflock,
So moved.
seconded by Commissioner Farnahoff. Any further discussion? None appearing. Let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
nay.
All right, ayes have it. Thank you very much. On to committee updates. Bylaws Committee, Vice Chair Roland.
Don't think we have an update, do we? Do we have that final copy ready or I don't think.
It should be ready to go out this week, and I think
That's what I thought.
we're gonna be on the calendar next
Yeah,
Tuesday.
it's next Tuesday. All right, thank you. Yeah, I was just like trying to. All right, nothing yet.
Okay,
Soon.
okay. Finance with Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, again, I could compliment CFO Bothwell in here. He did a really great job trying to, in the past, we have guidelines and everything else. And he basically consolidated everything else, put in the policy, only about 11 pages. So it's not that, I think that's a really good, where I have a lot of input in there. And thanks for Commissioner Geofleck on the investment part, because you're expert on that and you have a really good input into it. Oh, Commissioner Lawrence? I just saw you. Do you have any more input for tomorrow's for the policy that Commissioner Stafford Bothwell wrote down?
No, just
Okay.
see you at the meeting.
All right, so we'll have that meeting tomorrow. Hopefully, we got to finalize the draft, and then we will send it out to all the members to take a look at that. I'm hopefully we even get that passed on the last meeting of the week of the month. That would be great, or maybe first meeting on May. So I don't know what the agenda look like for the last the third meeting. So we'll let you know. So we want to get this thing done, move on, and then with other stuff to do.
Thank you, Commissioner Chan.
Yeah.
Intergovernmental with Commissioner Farnahoff.
Yes, thank you. We were briefed out on the 28th by staff on the letters that were going out to the council that we talked about already in this meeting. And we also talked about the Briar annexation and the Q&A session that's going on this evening, which is April 4th. And then will be one for Montlake Terrace on April 6th and in person, and then a virtual Q&A session on April 12th virtually for anybody that would like to attend.
Speaking of the Q and A, Brian, we have an idea how late that was supposed to be scheduled to go till?
All I know, it was about a 20-minute presentation, but my text message from Chief Maxwell was it was a packed house.
Okay,
So my guess is they're still there answering questions.
sounds good. Thank you very much for the update. And still 911, we haven't had a meeting yet. We'll have a meeting. Finance will be next week, and then the regular meeting will be on the third Thursday. And with the absence of DC Newhoff, his presence will be missed. So on to commissioner comments. Any further commissioner comments? Events, we have Heritage Park tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And then we also have a Snow Isle Fire Commissioner meeting on Thursday, April 6th, about the same duration as the Mount Lake Terrace Q&A session. Commissioner Kenny, can I put you on the spot about the Snow Isle Fire Commissioner? Do you know the topic?
I don't.
Okay, that's all I was gonna ask you for.
It's online, so it's not too painful to attend.
Yeah, the Blue Jays, so thank you. It's an activity that's going on. I don't see Shawnery on. Yes, it was on my calendar, my fire commissioner calendar. So it might be on yours as well. I think it's a park cleaning, to tell you the truth. I'm not sure of those details.
I don't have it on mine, so maybe it didn't get sent out.
And then Shawnery, hey, can you talk to us about the Heritage Park event tomorrow morning?
Yeah, so it's South County Fire isn't directly participating. It's something that the union has participated in years past, and I believe Commissioner Chan was there last year. And so I just forwarded it out in case there was some interest, but there won't be like an engine or anything like that.
Thank you so much for that clarification. And then we have on Thursday, April 13th, Mount Lake Terrace Station, open house from 5:30 to 7. And we have a bunch of other items that are in the packet. So Commissioner Chan.
Yes, I think I sent the email to all the other commissioner. I've been appointed as the Education Committee on the WFC Washington Fire Commissioner Association. So if any one of you want to on education line seminar, that type of thing you're interested, let me know. So the meeting's in June. So one of my really hopeful that I think right now we really not getting more seminar that regarding the kind of the larger RFA like us, the lot issue hasn't really discussed. So I want hopefully can do that. So you can please let me know another education thing that you guys want to learn. And talk about the Linwood, the Heritage Park. It was fun. It was, I don't know, have anybody been there? Okay, they have a streetcar and everything else. Linwood, actually, Commissioner Matter was a member for that. And basically describing all the wood. It was 5 acres farm and everything. The union's working with the union and they have really good donuts, coffee, and have a good lunch. So it is a fun way to do things.
Thank you, Commissioner Chan. And just wanted to add that Support 7 is having a dinner on Saturday, April 22nd. So from 3 to 6. And with that, at 8:21, I adjourn the meeting.